Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. And now I am so glad to have Krista join the show. So welcome, Krista, to the Glow Up Girl
everyone.
podcast.
Hi, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, let's go ahead and dive into our discussion. So why don't you start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, I feel like I always have to go backwards to move forward, which you know. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Okay. I grew up in a small coal mining town in Western Pennsylvania, and my parents owned the local tavern and we lived above it. So that's kind of where I come from. That's, where I belong. And, but I learned a lot growing up in that environment as far as running a business or being an entrepreneur. But I eventually went to college and was the first one in my family to go to college. And then I aspired to be the next Barbara Walters. That was my thing. I had a television talk show in college and I loved it. But then as fate would have it, I couldn't get a job and I decided to answer an ad in the paper and took a sales position. So my career was sales and sales leadership for 20 years. I kind of traveled and started offices for large corporations in growing their business. I was the VP of sales for Corporate Express, which is now Staples. And then one day I left. And I always say my boss took the wrong day to tell me to shut up and sit down. And I left corporate America and kind of started my own business shortly after that. So I really am passionate today about helping women better understand who they're meant to be and to not just kind of follow the norm and really rediscover your purpose and your passion so you can move forward in life with a lot more meaning and purpose. So that's kind of me.
I love that. And gosh, so many things when you said my boss picked the wrong day to tell me to sit down and shut up.
Yeah.
So of course I got to follow up there.
Right.
To like, were you already, I guess, feeling that maybe you weren't in the right place and you needed to reinvent and follow your purpose and passion? And like, that was just sort of the last straw for you?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what it was. I remember driving into work for probably about 6 months with that pit in my stomach, kind of feeling like something's not right. I'm not happy. I'd been traveling a lot in my position. My marriage was kind of on the rocks. My kids were 9 and 11, 2 girls, and they needed me at home and I wasn't there for them. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing anymore. On the outside, I looked like I, had it all together. Family, career woman, VP, sales and business is good. But inside something was off, something wasn't right. And they were actually trying to get me to take another position and to move the family again. And I didn't want to do that. And I was kind of just feeling very stuck. So it was a matter of timing that I drove in that day feeling yucky. And then that happened. And I'm like, I'm out of here. And
now,
I never went back.
Now, was this the catalyst to the changes that you began to make in your life? So at the age of 40, you started to reinvent or move towards your purpose again.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I remember getting in my car after I walked out and I just felt great. I felt free. I felt free to be me, but I didn't know who me was because I didn't do any introspection or reflection or rediscovery. I had been building a career and raising a family and so externally focused that I had no idea. But I remember asking myself a lot of questions on that drive home, which was about a 45-minute drive. And I just had these mixed feelings of, oh my gosh, I'm free. I can do whatever I want. And then yet I had no idea what that was.
Right.
So I asked myself some really pertinent discovery kind of questions. And one of them was asking myself, what was I doing when I was 10 years old? What was I doing before the world told me who I needed to be? And that's where I started. And that kind of started leading me down a different path, not only of self-reflection and discovery, but taking action on what it is that I needed to be doing.
Mm. And so, okay, so that was the beginning.
Yes.
And what did you do from there? Because obviously you had family and you got home and said, hey,
yeah, a little bit of backdrop on that is
yeah.
I was the major breadwinner in the family.
Mm-hmm.
And my marriage was not healthy. And it ends up 3 weeks later, I left my husband.
Mm.
So you talk about like major life changes.
Right. Yeah.
Now I have no job. I have no husband. I have no career. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and it's just a little bit of a side note, sometimes, fast forward, that was what, 20 some years ago. But even today, when I think, oh, I can't do that, or I'm not sure I have what it takes to do that, I reflect back to, look what I did, so I can do this. But yes. I did, we ended up selling our home and both buying townhouses or beside each other, not right beside, but like a block away. Mm-hmm. And I started building a new business in the extra bedroom of my new townhome with my girls.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. So now
from scratch.
So now it's starting to connect for me, hearing your story, why you say we need to go backwards to move forward. Yes. Because I think that you get, just from listening to you speak and how you reflect on the past, and you pull from that to, as it helped you to become and the woman that you are today, and as you will continue to grow. But for the listeners out there, can you talk about what that exactly means to you and maybe how we can utilize that in our lives?
Sure. So I started thinking about who I am at my core. Like I said before, what I love to do before the world told me. But I also believe that we're born with God-given talents, and it's up to us to discover what they are. And these are gifts that we need to give back to the world. Mm-hmm. So I realized what I loved was writing, but the only writing I did in corporate America was occasional emails. And I loved speaking. I remember I had that talk show. Mm-hmm. I loved speaking. And here I'm told to shut up and sit down. So that didn't work, right?
Right.
But I started really thinking about how can I build a business based on what I love, what I'm great at, and what I believe my gifts are that I can give back to the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the formation of my company, K Coaching, which I founded 19 years ago. And it was a collection of, hey, if I'm going to move forward in life, I want to make sure that I'm being me. Mm-hmm. And not somebody else, and just and living my life with more purpose and more passion.
Yeah. I love that. And I agree with everything you said. I do think it's important for us to foster the gifts that God has given us and to be able to, because once you know, and it's really hard to turn away from like purpose once He's given you that purpose. It's like really hard not to do that thing.
Well, it's all about listening, right? Mm-hmm. There was a voice that in my head that told me, get out of that environment. Mm-hmm. And, you can do this on your own. Yeah. And I think that sometimes we don't act upon those feelings. Yeah. That, okay, now I need to move forward. And when I talk about reflecting and going backwards, I also enjoy the connecting the dots, right? So I had this 10-year-old experience of who I was. I wanted to do certain things, and I was brave, and I was such an entrepreneur at 10. So I know that, but then I have all these life experiences, mm-hmm. the highs and the lows and the lessons learned. And I call that connecting the dots. Yeah. And part of the process of kind of getting clarity, mm-hmm. and then getting the confidence that you need to move forward and be committed in whatever change that you're going to make.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so awesome. Mm-hmm. So another cool thing that I think that you do, and I'm excited for you to talk about, is you create one word for the year versus coming up with the resolutions. So first of all, tell us why you started doing that. And what does that mean to you? And just sort of talk us through the experience of getting to that one word.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So I did learn, I guess it was about 4 years ago, and I learned it from a coach that I had.
Mhm.
And she taught me the word of the year and kind of the process of really drilling down to what is the one word. And the difference between a one word and a resolution for me is I can actually remember it.
Mhm.
And it's not like 6 months from now, I'm going, what were my resolutions for the year?
Right.
But I have this one word that I can live and I can embody. And then every day I'm intentional on living that word. I'll give you a kind of a good example. And I do seminars and retreats around word of the year. If anybody wants to look into that, you can get that off my website. And there's a whole journal like to help you come up with your word of the year.
Mhm.
And it can be done anytime throughout the year, but it's very popular
Right.
like in December and January. And then we create vision boards around the word too. So that
Yes.
also is a good reminder of what that word is and what it means. But acting on that word every day is a challenge, but that's part of living it and
Mhm.
embodying it. So my word of the year this year was giving. And I've been very intentional every day. I know my word, I've got it like posted everywhere. I feel it in my heart. And I want to do something giving every day. And I think that just makes it easier, like to make things happen. And wonderful responses come from living your word. And you know, not only do you meet your goals, you know, you're very intentional, but it feels right.
Mm. So if anyone is out there listening and they're like, oh yeah, I really want to start this journey of discovering what my one word of the year is. And I love that it's one word, because like I've been doing something like that at night before, like when I'm thinking about the next day and how I want to go into the next day. So it might be something like I'm going to go until to tomorrow with gratitude.
Yeah.
And I make a point to, you know, let that sort of lead the day for me. And then it comes back to me when I feel like, you know, maybe I'm working and something goes, you know, to the left, but it is a reminder that it's gratitude. So guess what? You might not be feeling grateful today, right? In this moment.
I talk about a word of the year, but there's nothing wrong with the word of the day, right? Or the word of the quarter, word of the week. It's just, it really guides us.
Yeah.
I want to just give you an example of living the word for a moment, though, and how you can get things done by thinking about your word. So the other day I was cleaning out my closets, and I needed to clean out my closet. Some clothes and, you know, just make some more space. And I kept putting it off because it just wasn't something that I really felt like doing. And I decided to live my word of giving. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in that closet. I'm going to pull out clothes and gifts and things that I don't wear and use. And I'm going to give them, you know, back to, there's a women's shelter here locally. And so I'm living my word, but it made me take action on something that I really maybe didn't want to do, but I tied it back to who I want to be. Right. And the word of the year is more about being than doing.
Yeah.
And it's good to come up with a word that is a being word rather than a doing word, because giving kind of feels like doing, but you have to think about how do I want to be? And that makes a big difference.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So tell us, how can just one word create passion and purpose in your life? And I know you've touched on it as it relates to your life, but can you share on that, please?
One word on how to create passion and purpose?
Or no, how can just the one word? So when you
how can the one word? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So when you go through the word of the year process, or if you want to make it word of the day, there is a lot of reflection and clarity around who you want to be or what you want to accomplish, just like a resolution is. But what you'll find is the outcome is going to drive you to acting or being or doing something different, taking on a challenge or meeting a goal. And so it's kind of the end result is what's going to make you feel purposeful. And that word is going to give you the passion and the energy that you need to, reach that and to obtain that every day.
Awesome. I love that. It's such a different idea, but I love that it's paired with the vision board because I love a good vision board.
Mm-hmm.
I
think I have mine. Mine's over there. You can't really see it. Let me move my camera. There it is.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I do a vision box.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a combination. It's like a vision box and it's a gratitude box. So every day or every other day, I try to drop something in there that, I'm grateful for, a lesson, a blessing, whatever it may be. But what I do at the end of the year is I open the box and I read like everything that happened in the year. And it's so cool to see
great.
All the lessons, all the ups, all the downs, the good times, the low times, and just reflect on it. And that helps me to sort of build my box for the next year.
I love that idea. Something came to mind. I'd love to share with you. I do retreats, which is a part of how I deliver, some of the materials on soaring with passion and purpose. And we have this activity in our retreat whenever we're reflecting. If we have that negative voice that keeps popping up in our head, we write it down on a piece of paper and put it in, it's a little trash can, and put it in this trash can. And at the end of the retreat, the night before we close, we go through and we look at these things that we wrote down that were really trash.
Yeah.
And kind of categorize it. And it's such an awareness around oh my goodness, this is what's holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
The things that are causing me to not move forward with passion and purpose. And it's just a really cool way to capture all of that. And that's what it reminded me of when you were talking about putting those notes in a box.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. I think that is a really good thing. I bet it's such an awesome moment for people to reflect on what they wrote. Mm-hmm. And then maybe even to reflect on back of why did I write that? So, yeah.
And once they come up with what that why is, that's written on a piece of paper, and the paper is actually the type of paper that you light and it poofs.
Nice.
Disintegrates.
Yes.
It's called fire paper or something. And so then we all light it and it goes.
Even better because you're burning that thing. Yeah, bye-bye. Okay, so can you also tell so a couple of things. Let's talk about your programs that you offer and how people can work with you. And then I want you to tell us about your podcast that you host.
Oh, great. All right. So first, let me just tell you about some of the programs. And this is kind of interesting for me because I had a very successful coaching, consulting, and training practice for almost 20 years, K-coaching. Mm-hmm. And we had our own coaches and trainers. We had an online learning platform that had 3,000 members at any given time. And I published my book, Race to Amazing, which was the fast track to sales leadership. I mean, I had this world of helping sales and sales leaders be successful in their careers. And I had that little voice in my head, okay, we're not having any fun anymore. There's something else out there and it's not sales related. There's something more. So I did completely make a shift in my business 2 years ago. And it was prior to COVID. I wanted to actually work less. So in 2020, my goal was to work 20 hours in 2020 and to shift and sell off some of the assets and the training materials that we had built over the years. So I've done that. And I started to rebrand under KristaMoore.net. So K-Coaching still exists as a company, but it's really KristaMoore.net. And now I'm doing more of what I want to do. So that's a little bit of background. Again, talking to that 10-year-old self or going back in my own reflection of, okay, there's more here. And I think like boredom is the world's greatest evil. And sometimes when I feel like I'm not fulfilled or I'm not living
Mhm.
my best self, or I get bored, and I don't like that feeling. So
Yeah.
I have to rediscover again. So the whole
Yeah,
process isn't just like one time. It's
exactly.
I've
Yeah.
been working my entire life to be who I'm meant to be, and I'm
Mhm.
still trying to figure that out. The process is fun. So
Yes.
part of that was, I guess it was about five years ago. I
Mhm.
was bored, and I'm like, okay, I started this company. We're successful. I'm doing all these speaking engagements, which I love to speak, but and I wrote my book, which I love to write. So, but I don't like the personnel component of the business anymore, like
Mhm.
dealing with people. I just kind of wanted to do my own thing and not have a
Mhm.
lot of employees.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, how can I just make this switch? But one of the things that I said to myself is, well, I always wanted to have a television talk show. You know, how can I do that? And then I'm like,
Mhm.
well, I'll just have my own show because
Right.
I can. And I said, what do I call it? Well, let me call it the Krista Moore Show. So I started a talk show 5 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's called the Krista Moore Show, and it has evolved over the years.
Mhm.
Um, and I love interviewing people who are able to share their stories of passion and purpose so that they can encourage others and have an impact on others that are listening in terms of how can they, continue to be intentional about
Mhm.
living a life of purpose and meaning and
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that. And that's awesome because that's what's important. I mean, I love that you said like you're essentially just always evolving and
Mm-hmm.
turning into the best version of yourself and helping other women to do the same thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's fantastic.
And I narrowed things down as far as programming because, again,
Mhm.
I didn't want to work as many hours.
Mhm.
I didn't want to have employees. I have some virtual assistants,
Mhm.
with some of the admin and the marketing and the website, but not like a team that like I
Mhm.
used to have. But there's just three things, and that's retreats and speaking and my talk show. And
Mhm.
retreats
Mhm.
slash workshops.
Yeah.
I'm turning a lot of business down because it might not feel right. And it's just a
Mhm.
wonderful place to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm giving, my word's giving, right? So I had a lady call me a couple of weeks ago that wanted me to do a workshop for a nonprofit that works with adoptions and foster children. And she's telling me their cause, and she's looking for someone to speak in February. And she asked me um, what my fees were. And I said, my word of the year is giving, and I'm going to give you my time. And it just felt
Mhm.
great to be able to do that.
Awesome. I love that. I mean, I love the prioritization of you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's still so important, when we are givers and we are people that pour into a lot of people around us, that you decided, I don't want to work more than 20 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that you were able, what I really love is like, I'm the same way as it relates to my business. It's like, pivot when you need to,
Yeah,
like honor the voice that's telling you
that's
that it's
right.
time to make a shift and then pivot and do that. You don't have to stay in the same place. And I think, this is the time of the year where we're all sort of starting to think about, what do I want for, 2022? And
Mm-hmm.
you have to tell yourself, like, I've got lists right now that are like things that I'm going to stop doing, things that I want to do more of, and things that maybe need to be reimagined.
That's
But
right.
I'm never, like, don't be in the spot to where you feel like something must work. If you launched it, then it has to work. No, it's just not the time for
And
that.
it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's what you actually just walked through are the three steps that I teach a lot in my programming, no
Mhm.
matter if it's the speaking or retreats or on the show, but it's clarity,
Mhm.
commitment, or excuse me, clarity, confidence, and commitment. So you're getting
Mhm.
clarity, then
Mhm.
something has to happen, whether the pain is so strong that you make the commitment finally or make the change, but that confidence needs to be there. And then the commitment to making it happen. And that could be something very small or a complete career change or life change. But I firmly believe in those three, very distinct steps. And often it starts with that rediscovery or reflection.
I love that. Awesome. Well, Krista, will you let everyone know how they can find you online?
Sure. Yeah, the best way would be to go to the Krista Moore Show on Facebook. I also have a Krista Moore YouTube channel that is a reflection of all of the videos and the talk show that I do and a lot of the speaking engagements. If you go to kristamore.net, that's my new branded website where it's, K-coaching's kind of funneled there. And I'm on Instagram and also Twitter and LinkedIn.
And guys, I will drop all these links into the show notes so that you can find them easily. So, wow, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great conversation. Yes, I appreciate everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I tell you, when I looked at your website before we first got connected, and I was like, wow, it felt like a lot of synergy.
I agree. And that's why I'm going to have you as a guest on my show.
Yes. And certainly being able to speak to you in person, then just hearing you and then speaking, I was like, yep, it's definitely there. It's like saying the same thing, very similar stories. And so I've been so excited to have this conversation with you. It's been great.
Awesome.
So now we're going to move in. We got one more segment.
Okay.
We got 5 things with Krista. So 5 things is when I ask you 5 random questions, maybe even 6, who knows? But it just helps the audience to get to know a little bit more about you on the personal level.
Okay.
So I always love to ask people this question. How do you start the day?
Well, I like to sleep in, but sleeping in is like maybe 7.
Yeah.
I used to get up at 5:30 when I wasn't working, when I was working 60 hours a week. But I like to sleep in, and I get up around 7, and I enjoy coffee with my husband in the sunroom. And that's kind of our beginning of the day to just think about what are we going to get accomplished that day and to spend some one-on-one time together. And then I have 2 girlfriends. I have more than 2, but these 2 particular ones I've had a lifetime. And one's in Maryland and one's in Pennsylvania. And we do a FaceTime probably 3 to 4 days a week. And one of them's a yoga instructor and an aerobics instructor. So she walks us through 45 minutes of a workout, which is just a lot of fun because they're my friends and we're committed to doing this together. And we have it instructed and we're just kind of doing it through FaceTime, which works out great. So that's a really important part of my morning routine. And then after that, I just kind of get on with the day.
I love that. It's a great start. What's one affirmation that you speak to yourself? So I know you have your word of the year, which is giving. But anything else you speak into yourself?
Be you, not them.
Awesome. I like that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
What's one goal, so business or personal, that you set for yourself this year?
Well, at the beginning of the year, we sold our office condo, which we had the physical office space. We had employees, and we sold that and bought an RV.
Oh, nice.
So it's like this small Sprinter van, but neither one of us are campers. So we set a goal at the beginning of the year to travel more and just enjoy outside of the home because we were kind of stuck here, with COVID. So we went on a 54-day, and I call it a soul-batical. It wasn't a sabbatical. It wasn't retirement. I didn't know what it was, but I found the word soul-batical. We went on a 54-day soul-batical and just got back. But the goal really is to travel and to play golf.
Like it. I like it.
And we're working on both of those.
Fantastic. All right. What is one thing that you do for self-care?
Oh, that's a good question because I think we all need to figure this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
In March, I hired a nutritionist coach
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like I'm going to be turning 60 and I want to make sure that I'm on the right path for health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like most women, I've gone my ups and downs, those 20 pounds that come and go, all that. I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I hired a nutritionist and she helped me with my relationship with food, which was a whole different take on dieting. She doesn't even call it dieting. And it really was self-care. It was about really understanding what I was putting in my mouth. And, it's about giving me energy and nutrients. And it just was a great process to go through.
Mm-hmm.
So my self-care routine is really about being more conscientious about diet and nutrition. And, not only have I lost weight, I just feel better, I have more energy, and I want to continue that.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, how do you end the day?
Oh, I end the day with a couple glasses of wine and Netflix. I mean, that's how I do it. And sometimes we stay up way too late, try because they get you, they get you on the end of
it's like, oh, are you still watching? And you're like, oh, yeah, I can watch one more episode. Yeah.
I wish I could say, I have this to take a bath and I do journaling and no, I like to chill out, have a couple glasses of wine, watch TV, and my husband and I just sit in the TV room and it's like, are we going to watch one more? We're going to watch one more.
You're like, yep.
Yeah.
I just want to say before we go that you said you were about to turn 60. Well, I do not see that anywhere.
Thank you.
At all.
Yeah, that big 60. It's next year. I call this the summer of 59 because that's what I am. And I'm just,
Yeah. Well, you wear it well because I cannot see it anywhere on you. You look beautiful. So
thanks.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Krista, for joining today. And you always have a door that's open if you want to come back and share with us in the future.
Yeah, we should do a word of the year towards the beginning of the year. Yes. That'd be fun. Yeah, we could do it like interactive and live, or you can get your community to all join. It's just such a great exercise and a good time to do it.
Awesome. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.